Do you know, I don't know about you, but when I was at school, there wasn't a course or there wasn't a lesson on marketing. Now, when people go into business for the first time, they have to learn marketing quickly. And if they don't learn it quickly, then they'll go out of business and be unsuccessful. The problem is that learning a lot of the basics of marketing are very expensive because you make a lot of expensive mistakes. So what I've done here is put together a little presentation that hopefully are going to give you the basics in marketing and teach you some of the things that I've learned that have cost me a lot of money to learn. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look at my marketing basics here. These are all things that I've done and tried and tested in my business in the past. Some of them hopefully you'll find relevant, some of them not. But I'm not going to tell you about anything that I've not tried myself. So there may be other marketing approaches and other techniques out there that may be relevant to you. The first thing is, why do we do any marketing in the first place? And I think, but you need to think about this. Firstly, we want to get more customers. Now that's the most obvious one that everyone thinks about. But also, we can do marketing to increase the frequency of which our existing customers purchase from us. So if they bought from us every 12 months, then perhaps we can get them to buy from us every 10 months. The other thing we can do is sell more of our products to existing customers at every sale. So we can market more products to each of our customers. Please keep this in mind when you're doing any marketing, because most people don't get beyond point one here and think it's all about new customers. It's equally as important to market to your existing customers, and it's much cheaper and easier. Now, this guide that I've put together here is making one big assumption, that you've already got a product that you think is good and that you know there is a market for this product. Now, if you've not been through my startup section on the Grow the Profits website, look at some of the videos there and they will make sure and help you determine whether it is that your product meets these criteria. So I'm making the assumption that there is a market for your product and that it is a good product. Nothing I tell you here will change that. You'll just waste a lot of time and money if you've got this bit wrong. In my experience, there are two approaches to marketing, and you generally don't find this in marketing books. The first one is marketing purely to sell the product. What I mean by this is, if you have a low value product, say under $100 or £100, then you can probably just use marketing to buy it directly. But if you have a higher value product, then you generally find that you would need to meet with a person or a company or an individual in some way before they decide to buy from you. Or perhaps you would speak to them on the telephone. So in that way we have two approaches to marketing. The first one is we market to sell the product. The second one is we market to sell a meeting or to sell a one-to-one. Now another example of this second scenario would be if you, for instance, own a shop premises. If you own a shop, it's most likely that people will not buy from you, unless it's an online shop, directly. They're going to come in to your shop, have a look at your products and offering, and then they'll buy from you. So our marketing will generally be to get people to come into the shop. Now, this second method of marketing here is very, very important. We can only ever sell one thing at any one time to somebody. We only really want to market one thing at one time. So in this second approach, what we need to do is sell a meeting or sell a one-to-one or whatever it is, someone coming over to our shop, and spend less time selling the product that we offer. Now, there are very big differences between big company marketing and small company marketing. And the thing is that you go out there and you buy a marketing book or you speak to someone about marketing and they talk to you always about big company marketing. The thing is, if you're a small company, you've generally got no money. And if you're a big company, you've generally got loads of money to throw at marketing. There are three big differences that I see between big company and small company marketing. And the first and most obvious one is budget. Big companies have got loads of money, small companies, you've got not a lot. So we need to make sure that your money is very focused and used well. The second thing is brand. In my experience, big companies invest heavily in a brand. Small companies can't afford to invest in a brand. And we'll talk a bit about brand in a little bit more detail later on. The last thing is effectiveness. A big company will spend millions of pounds marketing to millions or hundreds of thousands of people. A small company needs to spend just a few pounds marketing to just a few people and will want a much higher conversion rate than the bigger companies will. So there are big differences. So in my experience, everything to do with big company marketing, ignore. Look purely at things that are relevant to small companies. So let's look at this brand thing. I think brand is one of the biggest and most dangerous areas for small business owners to get involved with. It makes a fool of business owners because brand is awareness of a product. You get carried away with how your product portrays itself, the image, the color, the brochure, the label. All these things work out there in the big company world. But a big company spends millions and millions and millions marketing to people, and you haven't got millions. So you can't afford to generate a brand. Okay? I'm going to say that again. You cannot afford to generate a brand. So it's one of them things is I think you're best to focus in other areas, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the only real way that you can generate a brand is generating a brand among a very focused segment. So, for example, Coca-Cola have got a brand with virtually every person in the world, and they spend a fortune generating that. However, and you can no way compete with that. However, you can generate a brand, but you could generate a brand amongst, say, just 200 or 300 or 500 or 1,000 people. And you probably can afford to repeatedly send your message and your brand to 1,000 people. But you certainly can't do it on a large basis. And why I say this fools the small business owner is the small business owner works in his business. He's exposed to his brand all the time. And the net result is he becomes fooled by how much bigger his brand, or how big his brand is, when in reality it's not big at all. By far, the best thing you can do is forget brand and focus on a unique selling point or proposition. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? Focus on what delivers for your customer. Now, we haven't got time to go into the detail of developing a USP here. However, let's just look here. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And put it into a one-line statement. Don't get this confused with a slogan. It's not a slogan. It's something that uniquely identifies you. Here are two big brands here. Amazon.com and a Dyson vacuum cleaner. Both of them have got very strong USP. Unfortunately, this video is a bit too long to show on this site, so if you want to watch the rest of it, absolutely free, please go to www.growtheprofits.com. You'll also find loads of other videos there, and they're all absolutely free and will help you make a lot more money.